Okay, folks, get off your butts and grab your nuts. Set the boredom gun to stun. It's time for living large and hard.
Hey there. How have you been? I have been very busy. I haven't done one of these in 3 months. You know why? I have been very busy. Busy doing what? Well, let's catch up. I tell you what, let's go back over a year. Over a year ago, when I decided to retire, because I never should have worked. That's right, never. Never worked out for me working. When I decided to retire on my Social Security income, it definitely wasn't enough to stay in this country in the situation I was in, which was just me. And so some of you may remember I was going to move to Ecuador. Well, why the fuck did I not move to Ecuador? Let me tell you. Because somebody I know, Richie fucking Rich, who I had talked to about my situation and moving to Ecuador, and he said he wanted to move to Ecuador, and what I read from him, and I said, fuck no, you're a fucking slob. And if I ever brought a senorita in, I wouldn't want her to see your disheveled, fucking, unkempt ass laying around like a, millennial slob or whatever. What's 40? Is that millennial? Whatever. I said, dude, what I would do is, if I were you, is because you make so much money doing whatever the fuck it is you do on that laptop and yelling into an earpiece, why don't you just hit the road and just go from country to country? 2 months later, I said, sell the condo. What's the point of having the condo if you're not going to be there for a year? He lives in Chicago. So he 2 months later said, look, I'm going to take you up on it. That's a good idea. The bopping around Europe thing, the world thing. Luckily, he didn't take my advice about selling the condo, because I went and watched the condo for him. Now, that enabled me to have a place to stay for free. So I did not have to go to Ecuador. And what I did, if you followed along at all, is started traveling. An average of at least once a month to Europe since August of last year. Now, this is July, early July. I just finished my final trip of that period. And I will be doing another podcast that you maybe have heard before this one. Maybe you're listening after. Maybe it's fucking irrelevant. Let me think. Yeah, it's fucking irrelevant. Anyway, I got lots of statistics about all that stuff that I did. And then, some regrets. No, I don't. I never have regrets. But some things I would have done differently. No big deal. Anyway, you can tell it's my podcast because we're about 3 minutes in, and I've already just completely gone off the rails as to what I was talking about. So anyway, Chicago. Got rid of most of the rest of my shit in Allentown, Pennsylvania, the Skybox. Moved what I had to Chicago, to the Shybox. And I was based out of there pretty much all the time for quite a while, popping back and forth. Also, I got back with a former girlfriend of mine, Doof Mom, here in Lansing, Michigan. Lansing with a Z. That was a failed public relations brainstorm that the city had in the early 80s, because the automobile industry used to crank here 7 days a week, 3 shifts, around the clock, non-stop. The home of Oldsmobile right here. So after that, started going in the shitter, thanks to the hubristic ways of the automobile industry and thinking that the Japanese would not be any kind of threat, and then they got all their shit cut out from under them. Anyway, they started promoting Lansing, also the capital city, Lansing as Lansing. Did that work? No, fuck no. There's 20,000 less people now than there was then living here. So much for that. Whatever that money was, whoever that got paid to made out, because it didn't do a fucking thing. Except give me a tag, an obscure tag, to call this city that no one remembers it ever was called Lansing except me. So anyway, so Chicago, Europe, Lansing, which is an Amtrak ride, $30, 4 hours, if it works. If you heard some of my shit tribble, boy, it's definitely my show, and I definitely haven't done it in a while, because now we're 5.5 minutes in, and I fucked up royally. And I'm not going to edit it out. So anyway, what was happening was I would be in Chicago. I would leave for Europe for a week and a half, usually go back to Chicago, spend a day or two, get on Amtrak, which may or may not get me here, as we've heard in some of my trip trouble things. Sometimes I just didn't even bother, because it's supposed to be a 4-hour train trip. One trip was delayed 6.25 hours, which means it would have taken over 10 hours to get here in Lansing from Chicago. And then I'd bounce back to Chicago a day early, because can't count on Amtrak. Maybe 2 days early. And then off to Europe again. So I've been busy, bopping back and forth and doing all the other shit that I do. I started running, still bike riding, still doing all that stuff. It's keeping me so young and vigorous and sexy. So there's that. And then after this last trip, actually before this last trip, I started running back and forth with a small SUV to Chicago. It took 3 trips to get the little bit of stuff that I had there. And I'd leave early on a Sunday to avoid traffic, after the stupidly, on a weekday, leaving at 4 in the morning. So I hit traffic, going in, coming out. Brilliant. So I would drive, depends on traffic, to Chicago, 3.5 hours or 4 plus, and then I'd be there less than an hour, hauling all the shit out, because I'd have it all prepped and ready to go, and then drive back. So I emptied the chai box. Last 2 or 3 trips to Europe, I had almost nothing left in Chicago, just the bare essentials. Basically lived out of my backpack that I was traveling with. And I come back here to Lansing. So now that it's all over, I am permanently ensconced here in Lansing, down by historic Foster Park. Why is it historic? A lot of great ball players came from there, man. People that went on to play professional basketball. So, I know, doesn't mean shit. I used to play down there. I started playing down there again. Not playing so much as just going down and shooting, because after 35 years of not playing, oh man, the white man's disease is rampant. Plus my shooting touches. I don't know how I used to be able to shoot from beyond the NBA 3-point line, when now it'd be smarter from that distance just to drop kick the fucking thing. Probably more accurate, and it'd probably actually get there. So now I haven't come up with a... you might notice that the audio's different. It's echoey here in the attic studio. And I don't know what to call this place. The Lansing Loft? That doesn't work for me. I just came up with that. I shouldn't have, should I? So anyway, the outside noise is really loud here, even though all the windows are closed and the AC's off and I'm sweating a lot. Maybe you can hear me sweat. Listen real careful. Listen. Oh, isn't that something? Anyway, here I am in Lansing. That's what's happened. I spent a year pretty much traveling to Europe, back and forth, and kicked off moving to Chicago, getting rid of most of the rest that I had left, and then back and forth to Chicago to Lansing, and then moving from Chicago back to, my stuff to Lansing. And I've just, I just got tired of it. I would wake up on a regular basis and not know where the fuck I was. Not for long, mere moments. But I would go, where am I? Zurich. Now, let's figure out, am I supposed to be in Zurich? Now let's figure out, am I supposed to be leaving Zurich today? Now let's figure out how the fuck we're going to go back to sleep. So, about a year of sleep deprivation. Always fun. So that's where we're at now. Now I'm here in Lansing, Michigan, in the Mitten. Middle of the Mitten, we used to say, even though it's not. Take your right hand. For those of you not from Michigan, this is how we point out where we live. Because we literally point it out. Take your hand palm forward. Now go over where the bottom joint on your thumb, that's about Detroit. And go straight over to the left to the middle of the Mitten. That's Lansing. I was bartending once and I saw a guy down the bar in Allentown in Bethlehem. Excuse me. Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. And he's pointing at the palm of his hand. And I was talking to somebody. I said, hold on a minute. This person I'm talking to, hold on, I'll be right back. I went down, saw the guy with the hand, and I said, you're from Michigan. He looked at me and said, yeah. I said, not Detroit, from where you were pointing, one of the suburbs, and not north, south. Southfield? He said, close. So anyway, now you can pretend you're from Michigan. Just sit around and point at the palm of your hand and nod to the person next to you, and they'll go, what the fuck is wrong with you? So that's it. First installment from... Fuck, I don't know. I don't know what to call this. It was easy with the Sky Box, then it became the Chai Box. The Zing Box? Yes. Yes. The Zing Box. So that's it. From the Zing Box. The first episode. And now we'll have time to knock off more of this nonsense. So I'm sure you don't give a fuck about that one way or another. So I love you, all of you, deeply and repeatedly. Thanks for listening. Living Large and Hard. Also on Instagram, Living Large and Hard. Also on Facebook, Living Large and Hard. Also on Twitter, who gives a fuck? I'm on Twitter, but it's Living Large and Hard. So if you want to see the trip stuff, it's not that usual boring things like with me with a plate of spaghetti and a glass of wine with a sunset. Oh, look at that. No, I don't do that. Graffiti, old cars, weird signs. Some interesting, the Coliseum, I had to do that. Old churches, cool old churches. Yes, I do that. But, again, thanks. Yeah, I'm a little rusty. 3 months. I can't believe it's been that long. But, gotta believe it, because that's the truth. And bye for now. Thank you for having nothing better to do than waste your time with me here at Living Large and Hard. And now back to your quotidian existence.